take my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. And I have my doubt that we're coming now. Yes, I have my doubts. And I have my doubts that we're making back up. Yes, I have my doubts. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. Well, the things I think while I lie awake and contemplate at night are wearing me out.
Good evening. Sorry about the audio issues. This is a nightmare trying to juggle 5 million screens and 2 million audio sources, and to be quite honest, I'm about to lose my ish, and it has nothing to do with all the screens and all the audio and all of that. There's 3 things that I cannot stand that just rub me to a point of explosion. That is unneeded drama, lack of self-accountability, and lack of self-control. And I'm going to do my best to make it through tonight. I'm gonna, if somebody does try to join the conference thing, I'm gonna try to switch over, but I don't know how well it may or may not work. So, man, oh, you got a portable monitor, huh? What exactly is a portable monitor versus a monitor like this? I'm just curious. I know I could Google it, but I guess it's not just a monitor like a regular monitor. I guess it's something a little bit different. It was ether cheap, huh? Let me Google real quick, portable monitor, because that's got me, never actually heard of that before. Oh, portable monitor for laptop. Well, for laptop. Ah, I see. Okay, so it's kind of like almost like a tablet kind of a situation. I'm assuming that it just plugs into the USB port. Sweet. I heard a bing somewhere. Oh, that was you. Oh, that was one. That was actually one of them that came up when I just did the Google search. So, yeah. So when I say kind of like a tablet, I mean, well, because like I got my tablet here, and it's in this case that's very similar to what you got there. So that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I never even knew those were a thing. So, learn something every day. Yeah, that is kind of neat. Like I said, I didn't even know that was a thing. So, and I'm assuming it just plugs into the USB port, right? And then it comes up as another display in your device manager, I would assume. So yeah, that is really neat. That's handy as hell. Now is it USB or does it? I don't know if they could use Bluetooth for something like that, or not sure. That is kind of cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about this whole fear over this. Oh, sweet. This whole rocket launch and satellite stuff that's going on with Russia. So, and I didn't think that this was top secret classified information, but apparently to folks that don't research, it is. USB-C, HDMI, and mini display port. Sweet, that works. So, back in the 1980s, there was a lot of space wars, if you will, going on. And there were multiple types of weapon systems that were space-based that were put into play. Now, I can't tell you, what all as far as any kind of a testing had went on or how far they even got with the programs. But we're talking about everything from space-based lasers for a defense system to actual missiles in space that could be launched so that it would cut down on half the time it would take for an intercontinental ballistic missile to reach the enemy. They even put up stuff up there that's along the lines of railguns. I mean, they were putting up a lot of stuff back in the 80s. And it's not like you can't find the information, okay? They don't just come right out with it and give you pictures and draw you maps and give you ways of tracking this stuff, don't get me wrong. But, and again, I didn't think that this was so unknown, but apparently either there's a whole lot of people on YouTube that just don't know as much as they think they know, or they just like to fearmonger, or I don't know. I don't know. But I think it's hilarious, in a sense, because even Russia is coming out and saying, oh no, we don't, we ain't doing none of such. This has been going on for a long time. And, I can't tell you whether or not, this was some type of a missile system or an EMP system or some, I can't tell you that because I'm not part of Russia's Ministry of Defense. But what I can tell you, this all of a sudden this new fear of these space-based weapons is silly, to be quite honest, because it's been a thing for decades. And I think Russia called out the United States, but I think anybody with a discerning eye, discerning, ear, I think is calling this for what it is, and this is a push to get that money for Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan. And it's basically trying to scare the hell out of the American people to call up their representatives and say, oh no, you gotta pass this. It's the point of ridiculousness at this point in time. To begin with, and it always seems like nuclear missiles seems to be the, that's what we need to be scared of. There's a whole hell of a lot more weaponry than nuclear missiles at this time. But since that's the common threat that's known, that's why they keep hammering on it. I don't know. I don't know. What I will say, though, you bring it all together, regardless. You bring it all together. And like I've said a million times, the answer is still the same for us. We still need to be as ready as we can be. We need to be as watchful as we can. And we need to truly be serious about preparedness. It's not a game. There's a lot of people that act like it's some kind of a club. It's not a club. And the reason why I'm so much against that mindset is because a club typically is people that gets together and does things together. Well, guess what? When it comes to the YouTube prepping community, that's not a reality. And I think it's extremely dangerous for people to build, and it is in some sense a dependency, especially on the YouTube channels. And when the time comes, that's not going to be there. And unfortunately, these content creators are too busy thinking of ways to get people to click, 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 click. Instead of being realistic with you and saying, hey, no. Yeah, I want to provide you with good content, but you need to understand that you don't need to be looking up to me. You need to be looking up to yourself and to God. That's why I have a plethora of books downloaded. And yes, I know, I get it, they're in digital format. What if this and what if that? Well, what if? What if I can use them? That's what I'm going on, is what if I can use them? But I have got a huge library. I'm north of 1,000 books now. And when I say 1,000 books, I'm talking on all books, like anything from, say, basic chemistry up to high-level advanced chemistry. I mean, we're talking about everything from basic to high-level, things like metallurgy. I mean, you name it. Medical, you name it. If I can get my hands on any kind of a book in digital form that would help educate individuals or help individuals reference, I'm on it. Because I know that when that time comes, I'm not going to have this internet to be able to get a hold of and be able to find out how to do this or how to do that. I do believe that the time is near that something very serious is going to happen. I am not going to pretend that I have any understanding whatsoever as to what level it would be, what it would even be about, who it is that will start it, because none of us know. But I think it's really crazy the amount of fear-mongering that's going on, the amount of misinformation that's being thrown around, or the lack of information. Again, if folks are talking about this on YouTube, then maybe they need to know about all the space-based weapon from the 80s. There's so much crap, there is so much junk up there in space right now, just from the 1980s alone. because there was a big race to put a bunch of crap up there. You know, it's almost like the whole damn climate change thing, you know? When they want people to fear, they just pull it down and talk about it, and oh my goodness. So again, I'm not saying that Russia didn't put something up there of military prowess, nor am I saying that it's not, you know, that we absolutely should not be concerned about it. What I'm saying is we shouldn't be running around screaming the end is nigh now, because we should have been doing that since the 80s. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Steve. That is exactly what I am talking about. I'm waiting. That ain't popped up yet. Hang on. I'm waiting for that to pop up and be on my little screeny thingy here. But it's not doing so. I don't know why. It's lagging behind quite drastically, it seems. But yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Man, I wish that would pop up there so I can put it up on the screen. And since it's not, I don't know, maybe it broke. Steve had said Project Excalibur SDI or Star Wars. And I was absolutely speaking about Star Wars. Yep. It was a real thing. It was an absolute real thing. But I have yet to hear any other YouTube channel talk about it. I haven't heard anybody say a word about Star Wars yet. Yeah, right. Not that you would know or anything. Right. Well, I mean, there is places you can go and you can poke around and you can get the information to know that these programs existed. You just can't get any hardcore data as to what extent they existed, or, you know, if there was any type of testing done, what the results of said testing. You can't get any of that information because it is still considered, you know, in that sense, it's still most certainly a classified top secret situation. Exactly. Right. And there's no standing foot. You're not blocked, brother. I see ya. I see ya. How you been, brother? I haven't seen you in a long while. Oh, man. Getting some nicotine in me real quick. I don't know what's up. I'm thinking, let me go ahead. Hang on, let me go ahead and see if I can kick out these other screens and stuff. Because, man, is it giving me, I mean, everything I've got is giving me a fit. Let me stop that program and close it for now. All that should be okay. I don't know what's going to happen here. So I'm going to try this. Like I said, I have no idea what's going to happen. I got a program running called Split Cam. It's the only way I can run multiple cams at one time with the same cam. So let me go ahead and hang this thing up. Close this window out. Go ahead and close that window out. Let me close this window out. Okay, and then this is where things could get a little wonky. So you're probably gonna get a a kind of a weird screen here just for a second. So let me close that, and I'm still here. Bang. Click the close thing. Okay, now Let me try reopening up the other thing. I think I had just way too many things up and going at the same time, and it was causing me issues. I think what I'm going to have to do if I do that, as far as the conference thing, I think I'm going to have to join from a completely different device. So I'm pretty sure that that's what I'm going to have to do. Alright, we'll see if it repopulates here. I'm telling you, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. Hey, it repopulated. Sweetness. Okay, so it's back, and when it came back, I mean, it went blap, it was up. So I think that was the issue. It was having 5 gazillion screens up, and half of them pulling video, and all that good stuff. So anyway. Oops, let me get clicked off here. It says Twidget active. Here, let me just, I'll hit Steve's comment. Up. And then, that was the comment that he made that I wanted to put up. Let me unselect it. There we go. We're good now. Sorry about all that. Oh, man. And I know all my colors and all that good stuff is off, and that's because I played with it a little bit before the show, trying to get it adjusted right, because when I open it up in split cam, it's all way wacky different. So I'll have to go back into my settings and all that good stuff and get it all back to where it should be. So anyway, I've got an article up that talks a little bit about this deal with this rocket, and of course it doesn't give a whole lot of detail, but it does kind of, to be honest, in my opinion, it kind of plays into the fear level of stuff a little bit, I think. And it says, Russian Soyuz launch, speculation stir U.S. over Nuke-Space weapon. So basically, it talks about the rocket being launched and all that. It says, despite efforts from the White House and other agencies to limit the spread of information, news continued to trickle out following Representative Mike Turner, his revealing tweet. Sources at ABC News suggested that the weapon could potentially be used to target satellites rather than terrestrial targets. Okay, so that's been a thing for a while now as well. That is not a new thing. In fact, that was the whole reason that was given as to why we needed Space Force. So, that's old news. So the article goes on to say it's being closely monitored, the Gang of Eight's talking about it, blah, 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 blah. The most interesting thing out of this entire article was what I learned about some of the satellites that Russia did put up. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I would not be a bit shocked if the same type of things happen from U.S. satellites. Pardon me. And, it goes on talking about how this particular launch had pretty much followed the exact same footprint of a launch on December 27th of 2023. And, this here talks about, I think the one that was sent up on December 27th, it talks about cargo remains undisclosed. However, it was referred to as a classified satellite from the Ministry of Defense of Russia. However, speculations from various sources suggest that it could potentially be a BARS-M or an EO-MKA-5 optical reconnaissance satellite. Basically, it is what it sounds like. It's a big camera system is what essentially it is. Not any regular cameras, don't get me wrong, but that's essentially what it is. A surveillance system. It can see through clouds, it can see at night, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And I've talked about that before. That shouldn't be any surprise to folks around here. Yes, the satellites they have, I don't know how they do it, but they can see through clouds. And at the same time, as far as the Earth is concerned, they can put, I think it's a light frequency over a particular area, and a satellite-based camera, a satellite-based surveillance system can't see through it because it blurs it all out. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things. The interesting thing is, where was it? There was a part on one of these pages that talked about basically a satellite that gave birth, in a sense, to other satellites. I'm trying to find that. Aha. That was actually a little bit of a different article. It was this article here. And okay. Starts up here. Specialists from Leo Labs, an American firm, have drawn parallels between the Russian military satellite Cosmos 2570 and the well-known Matryoshka Russian nesting dolls in space. The satellites, similar to the nested doll, unveiled Object C on October 30th, which later gave birth to a new entity identified as Object D on November 23rd. Intriguingly, this is not the first time such an event has been recorded by the satellite. Back in 2022, another object was ejected from the body of the Cosmos 2565, dubbed Cosmos 2566, according to U.S. observers. American authorities have found it challenging to discern these separated objects from the Russian satellites. They've also remarked that their presence substantially hampers the operations of other satellites. Says, what are objects? Oh, okay. Gotta find my spot here. What are Object C and Object D? At this moment, the nature of both Object C and Object D remains undisclosed, even by Russian media outlets, including the Russian space web. Pertinent information from this Russian source indicates that the launch of Cosmos 2570 was transacted on October 27. Based on the analysis of Russian experts, the satellite had on board what's known as semi-classified payload, referred to as Lotus S1 or 14F145. A Russian space web stated that this was the 8th instance that it transpired within the Liana constellation, conducting electronic reconnaissance in space on behalf of the Russian military forces. So, what is it? I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. And at the same time, I'm not any more concerned than I was before. The only reason why they're even doing this, why they're even putting so much attention into this, is that they want to pass that bill. They want to get people motivated to contact their congresspeople, and I guess that's what none of it makes damn sense to me, because those people don't give a damn what you think anyway, not for the most part. The only time that those people give a damn what you think is when you do contact them en masse. That doesn't happen very often. Not very often at all. let's see. So, I'll just run through these here. The EU is saying, well, there's been several nations of the EU and the UK that have been talking about wanting nuclear weapons. Now, this German policymaker says that it's unrealistic. And let me read a little bit of this article. And the next one is the one that takes the cake. The EU should not focus on trying to create its own nuclear deterrent and instead ought to prioritize other means of ensuring its security, the head of Germany's Bundestag Defense Committee, Marie-Agnes Strack-Zimmermann, said in an interview on Wednesday. Her comments come after several German officials suggested that the bloc needs its own nuclear weaponry after U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump warned last week that Washington would not protect delinquent NATO members who do not contribute enough to the bloc. And again, in my opinion, this is just fear-mongering to get people to bend and do the will. And in some cases, namely this one, it's to put a stumbling block, if you will, in front of Donald Trump. You know, at least get people to really kind of speak out against Donald Trump and blah, blah, blah. You all know that story. And that's largely what they're doing. Fear-mongering over what happens if Donald Trump gets in office. Now, I'm going to mark that up as everything else, and I don't really see that much of a difference. I don't. There will be some differences, yeah, but overall, no. We'll still go down the same path, just maybe a little bit slower. Or at least it will appear that we're going down it a little slower. This one here. Kremlin responds to claims Russia planning nukes in space. And I thought it was kind of funny because they called it out. They hit the nail on the head. Western media reports claiming that Russia could place nuclear weapons in space are nothing more than a ploy by the White House to convince U.S. lawmakers to approve further military aid to Ukraine, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has said. Citing anonymous sources, several U.S. media outlets reported this week that American intelligence had obtained information on purported Russian plans to deploy a nuclear anti-satellite system in Earth's orbit. Although the idea supposedly remains at the developmental stage, ABC News claimed that while the system would not be used to attack targets on Earth, U.S. officials still consider it very concerning and very sensitive. Now, first off, how would ABC News know? They don't. So that's really interesting. Responding on Thursday, Peskov suggested that the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden is using the issue to force a vote to approve Ukraine aid. Moscow, however, will wait and see what comes from an upcoming White House briefing on the topic, Peskov added. It's clear that the White House is trying, by hook or by crook, to push Congress to vote on a bill to approve funding for Ukraine. We'll see what tricks the White House will use, he said. And, you know, like they all just said, propaganda, propaganda. It's ridiculous. Now, I'm of the age that I grew up through the Cold War, and I remember nothing when I was younger but Russia bad, Russia bad. And the entire time, I had the same attitude that I still retain today. And that is that none of it makes a damn bit of sense. Why? Because most of the Russian people does not have a problem with the American people. Right? And the majority of us, in reality, don't have an issue with the Russian people. It's the governments that have this issue between one another. It never made any sense to me. And how they could get people, I think about what happened in Germany, Nazi Germany. And I think about how Hitler got everyone to dehumanize other individuals so that they could get away with committing the atrocities that they did. That's what's happening today on mass scales. That's the different thing. It's not happened just one nation now. It's happening to entire hemispheres of the planet. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy, and that's all they want to do is dehumanize, and they want to dehumanize everyone. It's not just other nations at this point. They want us dehumanizing each other, so that as they go through between group after group after group, nobody's going to stand up for each other. And that's exactly why they're doing it. You know, I think about what the U.S. government is doing just to the U.S. people alone, and all I can see in my head is the picture of the NPCs, right? Those grayed out faces, all the same, nothing different. I think about things like Pink Floyd and Another Brick in the Wall. Same thing. And they're getting the people to do it to themselves. People are giving up their own identities. They're not just giving it up, they're throwing it, they're stomping on the ground. They are literally lighting it on fire. What am I talking about? Well, look at all of the different things that they've instantly turned people against over the past several years. They have gotten people to push away football. They've gotten people to push away NASCAR, Carhartt. I mean, we could go on and on and on and talk about the different things that they have gotten people to suddenly just go against. Things that people were so wrapped up in right beforehand. And the majority don't see what's happening. But they are getting people to give up their own identities at will. What's going to happen is we're going to be left with a world to where we don't have even the options of those things. Each and every day, moving closer to owning nothing and quote-unquote being happy. And they're getting us largely to do it to ourselves. It's how they've always done it. That's the whole purpose of the two-party system, is to get each other to whittle the rights away of the other and always have roughly half of the population cheering it on. That's why the Founding Fathers were so much against the two-party system, against the party system whatsoever. Because it's dangerous. The two-party system will take any nation, regardless of the founding documents, no matter how it will turn any nation into a democracy. And then once a nation gets turned into a democracy, it's done. It's over. It's just a matter of time. It's a sinking ship at that point. That was the whole point of having the representative republic. So that it's not that there were no control over anything. There was control over things. There was actually control over everything. But when it came down to the Constitution itself and the Bill of Rights, there were so many checks and balances put in place that it would be damn near impossible to change any of that. And on the other hand, like I said, they didn't want this whole two-party democracy system going on, because what happened is you wound up getting a bunch of damn lawyers involved, and that's essentially what happened. And so now they're finding ins and outs ways, and we were never supposed to be that. Our entire nation was supposed to be ran by intent, meaning it was the intent of the law. They shouldn't have been able to get away with the things that they're doing just because they can find a legal loophole. No, because that one word, intent, is what was supposed to have stopped them. It's crazy. It's crazy. We've got a government that's running under what they call color of law, which is not what this country is founded on. It's founded on intent of the law. Big difference. Big difference. And the best person I've heard ever talk about it, well, the best person's no longer with us. That was Lavoy Finicum. But next to Lavoy Finicum, the best person I've ever heard talk about it is Ammon Bundy. The big difference, we were given the bait and switch a long time ago. So anyway, let me run through these. I've got 3 more real quick here. Oops. Got more craziness going on in Gaza. Israel raids Gaza's largest functioning hospital. Says Israeli troops on Thursday stormed Al-Nasir Hospital in southern Gaza, the largest still functioning health facility in the besieged enclave, according to both the Israeli military and officials from the Hamas-run Palestinian Health Ministry. The Israel Defense Forces said in a statement issued through its spokesperson, Daniel Hagari, that it had received credible intelligence to support claims that Hamas held hostages at the Nasir Hospital in Khan Yunis. The IDF also indicated that it believed Hamas militants to be hiding inside the facility, though it did not immediately release evidence to back up the claim. A spokesperson for Hamas dismissed the IDF statement as lies. Aid group Medicine Sans Frontières said in a statement that it had been informed by hospital staff of a chaotic situation within the hospital, with an undetermined number of people killed and injured. Thursday's raid came hours after the IDF issued an order for thousands of displaced civilians who had been seeking shelter in or around the medical facility to leave the area. Fire on Wednesday directed at the hospital killed 1 patient and wounded 7 more. Hospital surgeon Dr. Khalid Al-Sir told Euronews. Palestinian Health Ministry spokesperson Dr. Ashraf Al-Qadra said, according to the BBC, that the IDF military operation had forced hospital administrators to keep intensive care patients without medical equipment. Al-Qadra added that in a statement that early Thursday evacuations of the hospital of patients and medical staff had been carried out under bombardment and threats. So, and, the damnedest thing, there wasn't any hostages there. Imagine that. On top of that, guess what else there wasn't there? Hamas. Imagine that. Imagine that. How many times does this have to happen? Oh, that's right. They've already done it too many times, and that's why there's so many different nations that are starting to back away from support. Azerbaijan planning full-scale war, says Armenia. I don't know how accurate any of this stuff is, but it is another hotspot we better keep an eye on, and it is a hotspot that could cause a lot of other issues. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has accused Azerbaijan of planning a full-scale war against his country. 4 Armenian troops were reportedly killed earlier this week when the Azerbaijani military opened fire on a border outpost. Attending a government meeting on Thursday, Pashinyan claimed that our analysis shows that Azerbaijan wants to launch a military action in some parts of the border with the prospect of turning military escalation into a full-scale war against Armenia. This intention can be read in all statements and actions of Azerbaijan, he added, as quoted by AFP. Pashinyan's statement came 2 days after Azerbaijani forces killed 4 Armenian troops in an attack on a border outpost. Baku claimed that the Armenian troops fired first, and that the fatal attack was a revenge operation. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev who won a fifth term in office this week, alleged on Wednesday. Isn't that amazing, by the way, how all these different individuals, and I'm talking about Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, this cat, and all these other leaders have somehow been able to stay in office even though technically their terms were done with. They couldn't run any longer. They couldn't be in office any longer. But all these different individuals got the rules changed so that they could continue to do what they were doing. It's mind-boggling to me, and that's why I'm very skeptical about what's going on globally with these governments, because there's just a lot of stuff that they're all doing in unison, and that goes back to the whole COVID thing, right? I mean, they all in unison started working on these vaccines, these mRNA vaccines. I just, born at night, but it wasn't last night. And then we have this. Soros could take control of hundreds of U.S. radio stations, says the media. Liberal financier George Soros has bought a major stake in the U.S. second-largest radio company and could gain effective control of more than 220 stations across the country, the New York Post reported on Wednesday. Soros Fund Management purchased around $400 million of debt owed by the Odyssey Media Group during its bankruptcy process, the newspaper reported, citing court filings. The billionaire bought the debt of roughly 50 cents on the dollar from hedge fund H.G. Vora, the report continued, noting that once the deal is approved by a bankruptcy court, Soros will own about 40% of Odyssey's overall debt. See how this works? While 40% is not a majority stake, a source told the New York Post that Soros could nevertheless gain effective control of the media giant when it emerges from bankruptcy. Odyssey owns 227 music, sports, and talk radio stations in 45 U.S. states. The company also owns CBS Radio, which operates 11 news stations, including San Francisco's KCBS and New York's WCBS. After years of declining revenue, Odyssey filed for bankruptcy early last month with $1.9 billion in debt. Should the deal go ahead as reported, Odyssey will be the latest addition to Soros' growing media empire. Soros Fund Management joined a consortium of creditors to purchase Vice Media last summer, paying $350 million to acquire a former media juggernaut once valued at $5.7 billion. An insider source cited by the New York Post described the Odyssey deal as scary, saying he believed that Soros intended to use his stake to influence public opinion ahead of this year's presidential election. A hedge fund manager who shot to infamy for crashing the British pound in 1992, Soros is among the wealthiest men on earth, with an estimated net worth of around $7 billion. That's on top of the $32 billion he's donated to a web of NGOs, charities, and political campaigns through his Open Society Foundation. So, who knows where all that's going to lead, but it's not good. It's not good when you've got major companies buying up all the property. You've got, and when I say property, I mean like real estate kind of property. And then you've got other major companies / individuals buying up tons and tons of farmland. You've got individuals obviously buying up the media empires. And none of these people that are doing this purchasing, none of these people are interested in our well-being. That is something that we really need to start taking to heart. We, the people, don't have much left. We really don't. We've got some old papers that the powers that be work hard, very, very hard, every day to burn. Now, I don't think it's going to take a whole lot longer for them to keep poking at, trying to get rid of the very founding documents of this nation. But the horrifying part It's not just our nation. It's around the world. And they're doing it all at once. You know, it used to be that the United States was that beacon of light. We used to be that land of freedom that would step in, that would actually go to war to protect other people. And now we have a nation, meaning a government, that's going to war with its own people to take all of that away. And there is no longer a beacon of light, a land of freedom, a country that people around the world can rely on stepping in and stepping up. I am concerned, heavily concerned for the future. But it ain't from satellites in space. It's not even from Russia. Not even from China. My fear grows from within this nation itself. I hope we can figure out something, but I don't see it. And it's not that I want to be a pessimist. It's not that I want to be a Debbie Downer. It's because I read this book. And this book plain out says that we don't fix it. We don't fix it. This is a virus that's going to run its course. The best thing that we can do is prepare for it. Both in mortality and eternity. And that's all we can do. And give our faith to Him. That regardless what happens, He's going to see us through. That doesn't mean faith without works. We got to do our part too. We got to do a whole hell of a lot of our part. Anyway, let me read some headlines here and boogie on out the door. I am glad, I had to double check, I am glad it's Thursday. I haven't even put on my headset for like several days. Haven't did nothing. I did do the update for Microsoft Flight Simulator. We got some Dune update, so now we got this ornithopter thingy that got wings, and I haven't flown it yet. Like I said, I haven't put the headset on. I haven't hooked up my flight stick. Nothing. So guess what? Tomorrow, I'm at least gonna finish the chapter I'm on in Joe's book, and may even finish the book because I've only got one chapter after that. So before you see me again, meaning Sunday night, I plan to have that book read. So, I plan on checking out the stupid, goofy little buggy ornithopter thing in the flight simulator, because why not? And, supposedly there's some kind of cool missions or something they added to use it with. I don't know. I'll check it out. Want to possibly beat a couple of missions on VTOL VR. That game is just a blast. And then go from there. And when I mean a blast, I mean that both literally and figuratively. Man, that's freaky. It is it is freaky thinking you're doing good and everything's all hunky-dory, and the next thing you know, everything in your plane just shuts off because you done got hit by a missile. And your plane's flying through, just flipping through the air. You're grabbing for your eject. It doesn't do anything. I mean, you do eject out and you watch yourself float down, but it's not like it really saves your ass. You still got to start over. It's fun, though. Alright. Have a couple of vapes. Most Germans against Ukraine joining the EU, says a poll. Well, that's funny, because a lot of people are against them joining NATO as well. Landmark newspaper building goes up in flames in Moscow. Trump reacts to Putin backing Biden. U.S. debt to top $54 trillion, says Budget Office. German commercial property market tumbling, says a report. Russian army stronger than before the Ukraine conflict, says EU state. Well, yeah, that kind of happens when you go to war with a country that you're not really taking out. They start building bigger and bigger. A German foreign minister hostile to Germany, says Putin. Trump could force Ukraine to make peace, says Bloomberg. Japan loses crown as world's third biggest economy. Oh. Man. NATO counting on Washington to arm Ukraine, says Stoltenberg. Texas should be renamed Ukraine, says U.S. Congressman. Kind of humorous. Kiev lashes out at U.S. makeup firm over Russian red lipstick. Yeah, because they got a lipstick color, Russian red. And all I can think is that little twit, how dare you? You know, that's all I can think of. That reminds me much of Zelensky. How dare you? Go back and be your little dancer. Argentine inflation catapults past 250%. Trump pitches Ukraine aid loan. Brussels will not extend gas transit contract with Moscow, says EU energy chief. Hungary blocks EU's new round of sanctions on Russia, says Financial Times. Infant among victims of deadly Ukrainian strike on Belgorod, says authorities. Poland should have demanded World War II reparations from Russia, says Foreign Minister. Epstein victims sue the FBI. Kremlin responds... Oh, that was one of my covered. Artist vows to destroy $45 million worth of art if Assange dies. Ukraine brings criminal charges against Russian tycoon. UK joins drone coalition for Ukraine. Anti-Semitic hate incidents hit record high in UK, says a study. Well, gee, I wonder why. UK slips into recession. Too late. We've all been there for a while. Let's see. Moscow slams Kiev for deadly strike on border city. Poland abandons World War II compensation claim against Germany. EU country begins seizing Russian cars. Australian Prime Minister backs Assange freedom bid. Putin names what Russians need to survive. Ukraine set to lose key Donbass cities, says White House. Let's see. Zelensky's advisor admits he has a brother in Russia. Soros could control hundreds of U.S. radio stations, says... Oh, I covered that. Sorry. Russian businessman reveals how he escaped U.S. extradition. Putin calls for global fight against Nazi propaganda. First Orthodox Christian country legalizes gay marriage. And lastly, Zelensky signs marijuana law. So apparently they're legalizing medical marijuana in Ukraine. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Other than it's Thursday night. It's 9:03. And I'm tired. I'm wore out. And I've had it for the day. I am going to get out of here. God willing, I'll be back Sunday night. And hopefully in a more relaxed frame of mind. And maybe I can get this other stuff with this conference stuff figured out a little bit better, a little bit easier, because that's way too much on this one poor computer at one time. Again, I think what I'll have to do is I'll actually have to use a different device entirely to actually join. So we'll see. I'll try. Well, that's where it's at, Steve. I actually had the stuff up this evening, but it was causing so much lag. I mean, even my little thing here, my little highlight thing here wasn't working. So I think what I'm going to have to do, I'll do some testing on it. It's what I'll do. I did testing on it earlier today, and everything was working okay, but I didn't have all the other screens up. I didn't have all the normal news stuff up that I normally have up. So that was a failure on my part from, accurately testing it. So I'll try it again on my days off. I'll try getting joining up with the tablet or a phone or something like that to see if that can take some stress off the system. I'll give it a shot and see what happens. Otherwise, maybe what we'll have to do is just have a show dedicated to that, where I don't do all the other stuff too. We could always do that too. So anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. God willing, I'll be back Sunday, and we'll take it from there. So, as always, I appreciate everybody coming. Hope to see you Sunday night. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.